Hi, I'm Cindy of Cindy Campbell Dog Training, and just real quick, we're going to go over the rules of how we run the meeting so that everybody gets the most out of it. Generally, they're pretty simple. The presenters will be talking. If you have a question, you can use the emojis screen on the app where it says reactions. There's a hand wave that you can do. I'm sorry, that was the clapping.
Raise your hand.
There's a raise your hand mode, and you can raise your hand or do something like clap or something to get our attention. Now I've got this up. Okay. Then you can bring your hand back down. What raising your hand does when you do it through the reactions is so there it goes. So what it does is it moves the position of where you are to the top left of our screen, so we know who's talking, or so we know who has a question. If the other way is to write the question or comment that we ask about in the chat group. I will be monitoring those while Penny is doing the majority of this chat today. And so I'll be monitoring the chat and letting Penny know what's going on with that so that we can address all your questions or concerns. If you have a question or comment, you can put it in the chat or you can raise your hand. And Penny?
The other thing, you may have said it while I was working on stuff, but so if you keep yourself muted unless you're called for it, it just makes the video recording all that better because it only puts one person on the screen at a time. And Cindy, because you're still raised, you're on my screen. So if you can lower your hand, that would be great.
No. So there's my reactions.
We're trying really, really hard to be inclusive of all disabilities and all things. So keep in mind, both host, Cindy and myself, have issues with brain fog. So if we stumble with a word or use a word that doesn't make sense, or say a sentence that doesn't make sense, forgive us, raise your hand, ask us. We want to make sure we're clear enough for you. We also have people that are participating now that are hearing impaired and sight impaired. So in that situation, also, if we're going too fast in some way, please just let us know. We're happy to give more details, but we also don't want to be here all day long either. So in the chat screen, I did put a quick link that I had on my Working Paws page that is an interview between Victoria Stilwell and Sarah Fisher. So Sarah Fisher was the creator of ACE Freework, which is the topic of today's discussion. So there is a YouTube video there that you can watch that interview and learn a little bit more about the project. For me, it's a little bit challenging. First of all, let me back up and explain what I know about ACE Freework. And I'm going to tell you it's very low, which is kind of why I wanted to host this one now, because I want to get other feedback. And then I'll be telling you about some great things that are coming up in the near future where you can learn more about it as well. And so you can join me, or we can host another one of these after, towards the end of August, and we can then look at all that I've learned. So kind of in between. So Sarah Fisher created ACE Freework, ACE standing for Animal-Centered Education. And free work meaning the animal that is there, and this could work for any animal, dogs, cats, horses, whatever. The animal that you're working with has multiple things to choose to do. And so you set it up and then you turn the animal loose in that area, which, I mean, if you're not in a secured area because you're doing it out in a backyard or something that's not secured, you can use a long line. But the goal is you pretty much check out or don't participate with the animal and just sit back and watch them do whatever it is they choose to do based on the options that you've provided. So the whole, like, it really started with enrichment activities such as lick mats, my version of snuffle boxes are like a box filled with a bunch of balls or empty water bottles, or, you know, and you can do it at different heights and different levels. Some things on the ground, treats scattered on a blanket, treats scattered on a snuffle mat, you know, that kind of thing. And so that was like the original starting, is if you set up these different things and if you use different treats on different obstacles, you could then learn what your dog's favorite treats were by which ones they were choosing to do first. And some dogs will kind of just like work the room in a pattern, like go all the way around your area. So sticking like to an outside edge and sniff a little bit of everything and then go back to their favorites. And other dogs will just like beeline to their favorite one. So you're constantly mixing it up. Every time you set it up a little bit different. And you might use different treats. You might use different obstacles. If your dog is a little bit on the shyer or cautious side, or a young puppy, or even a senior with some issues, all your treats might be on kind of a lower level surface, easier for them to get. Whereas if you're working with a more skilled dog that's done a lot of parkour and, you know, climbing and paws up and stuff, you might use other obstacles that are more challenging. So they're taller, or maybe they're a little bit wobbly, designed on purpose, or that kind of thing. So there is a little video that I put in the Working Paws group, but I just want to share it here. And I'm not sure the sound is going to travel well, because sometimes sound is iffy. Give me just a minute to pull it up. And then I will share the screen, because I can kind of explain what they're doing. It's a short, like 1-2 minute clip, but basically kind of just gives the example of this dog. Looks like it's a 3-minute clip. It's still loading. It's trying anyways. And we might not watch the whole 3 minutes, because I can also post this link. But it kind of gives you just that idea of what I'm talking about.
The link,
So
yeah, Penny, the link is in the chat.
that's a different link. That is a
Okay.
4-minute or a 40-minute long
That's
interview.
the interview. Okay.
Right. So I am going to put this one in the chat as well. But this is just like a 3-minute long. So this is the obstacles that this person has present. And she's got the subtitles there too. But so there's a couple of different things. The dog's looking at a snuffle mat there, a ball pit. There's the laundry basket, is kind of her up high and a little bit shaky service. And she's got a licky mat with high rewards there. She's got several different services in the background with different treats, so the dog can kind of just make their way around. So while you're doing this with your dog, you can also notice, you know, I already mentioned which treats are their favorite, but you can also learn like what types of enrichment activities are their favorite. You can also watch their body movements, so you can see that, like, if they're not twisting, like if they're always turning to the left and never turning to the right, they could potentially have an injury on the right, or you may need to be doing some doggy yoga that we've discussed before to help strengthen that side of their body. Or they could, like if you have a senior dog like this dog is here, and they're starting to develop signs of hip dysplasia or other arthritis or things, you can notice those subtle things while you're just sitting back and watching. So that's kind of the whole idea of free work. I want to just pause there a minute to see if anybody has any questions there.
I have a comment.
Okay.
I just want to point out that if you look at what's being used in this video, none of that is anything expensive or special. It looks like it's items that would normally be found around the house that people might already have. So it's not requiring you to go out and buy new dog specific items to try. There's like a basin, a wash basin, a step stool. It looks like there's a GoPro camera in there somehow, but I don't think the dog's eating from that.
Right.
And,
A
like a
frisbee.
yoga mat and, things
Yeah.
that are just generally people have around for one reason or another that they may or may not use. It looks like there's a wobble board of some sort there as well, or it might be just a different level.
Right.
But I think the key here is you don't have to go out and buy all new things to have your dog do this. It could be as simple as maybe you have some food on the couch that you're going to, assuming you let your dog do things like the couch, if you're doing it in the house, I have a tendency to drop dog treats down the back of the couch, and I'll, instead of vacuum it, before I vacuum it, I'll pull the cushions off and let the dog snuffle out of there to see what they're doing and how they do it. And they usually, as soon as I start pulling cushions, they're up in the seat looking for stuff.
Yeah, I have a comment too, if it's okay.
Of course.
This reminded me of a work that we actually do with some horses, and Penny knows that I am from the horse world. And something that we have a lot of cases we struggle a lot is independence and autonomy. So sometimes horses that are trained with negative reinforcement, like negative reinforcement based, we do an activity that is just leaving the horse, you are on the horse, and leave the horse do anything the horse wants. And it's really interesting because these animals, they aren't very used to have choice. So in my view, this activity looks very interesting even for dogs that are traumatized or something like this. And hi, Anya. They feel like they don't have choice, but then you start working that they can choose what they want and they have a voice with you. So I think it would help with confidence as well. Yeah, that's it.
Penny, I'm going to just
Go ahead.
mention another thing is you can do something similar with cardboard boxes, or where you have just like all your excess Amazon boxes that you've saved for maybe a week or two. And they're all various sizes and shapes, but all your cardboard, and you just like put it out in a pile, stack the boxes, put, some on their side, somewhere they can go in them, some are sideways. Just in kind of a chaotic manner, and then spread the food in there, spread out different types of food in there, and you can get the same type of effect and build confidence that way as well. Or you could, do the ball pit thing and have some food under the balls and have them snuffle in there. There's just all kinds of things that you could do along this way.
Hi,
That's
guys.
very
I have
true.
a comment too. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jen.
That could be a really good way to desensitize your dog or horse or whatever to something that they have a fear of. If you end up setting up all things that they really, really love, and then throw in the one thing that they're not a fan of and just leave them to it, they can experience the item while they're surrounded by all these happy feelings that give them the warm fuzzies, and it could positively affect their association with that item, because that item's just sitting there. It's not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually going to get to that, Jen. So that was a great point. So, yep, nope, you're good. So
That's the whole point of this, and of the chaotic cardboard thing, is to help reinforce confidence.
okay. So just so that we're not talking over each other, let's remember to raise our hands and mute when we're not talking, just because it makes the recording all that better. So I did put the link for that video if you want to watch the whole video and see your explanation. It's in the chat. The other thing that I've been doing with this particular thing to stretch it up another notch, you know, go above and beyond the basic stuff, is we know we have a lot of dogs that are not necessarily food motivated. Azul being one of them, Nick being one of them, and several others out there. So I've been setting up like my basic parkour activities, and then I might put a food down by that activity that's in a package or something. But so Azul is then choosing based on the activity if it's worth the value of the treat that is going to be offered if he chooses to do that activity. So some of the activities might just have free treats that he can go and enjoy. But so like my backyard right now is kind of not set up because I mowed yesterday. But before I mowed yesterday, it was set up with a pool, his sprinkler, his flirt pole, which is one area where I have to interact with him, but that's his favorite thing. So we keep that one available as one of his choices. He has a whole line of pine trees that are filled with squirrels he can chase and birds he can chase if he wants to. And then, of course, we usually have Cam milling around somewhere as a distraction and the occasional tennis ball flying, which is another distraction because Azul doesn't care for that, but it's happening in his area while he's working through. And then we set up the different parkour stunts too, as far as there's always an area where there's a couple of logs stacked and he likes to climb on the logs. And so I might sprinkle some treats on the logs to encourage him to walk down the top of it. He did that for his breakfast this morning. Yesterday we did the bobbing for kibble because he didn't want to eat his kibble after he ate his supplements and wanted to be in the pool because it was hot. So I was dropping 3 or 4 pieces of kibble in the pool as we were filling it up. So the hose was making him circle, and he likes to dive his nose in and rescue anything in the water. So, I mean, he was eating his kibble that way. So there are a lot of other options that you can do for the non-food motivated dog. You can use ways to build in food if you need to get them to eat their daily fashion. But you can also use those as enrichment themselves, such as Azul's flirt pole. It always sits in one particular spot. He knows we always play with it in the same part of the yard. And if he goes and gets it, that's his choice. And we'll play for a little while until I tell him all done. And then he's got to go choose something else, which is typically either the pool or resting in the shade for a few minutes before he goes and does something else. But so I want to just circle back a little bit to what Jen said, because that was going to be my next point. So part of this has to do with environmental processing. If we step back a moment before we look at actually needing to desensitize, we also, especially with our working dogs, need to teach them how to move into a new environment and just process that environment. I mean, dogs do it naturally by trait. It's just bred into them. However, with our working dogs, we put them in a lot more environments than the typical family dog would be in. And we also tend to rush that, even with our really young working dogs. So if we can expand their ability to explore the environment around them in a calm but quick fashion, we can then get them in their work mode much more rapidly and have far less distractions because they know how to explore the environment. And so especially with working dogs, you know, we might set up different parameters as far as which environments they can explore more. So like if I take Azul out on a nature walk, he's usually got his full end of the leash as long as he's not pulling me everywhere. And then he can explore at will. However, if I need him to work in a public place, then he needs to do all of his exploring basically with his eyes and air scenting, and not going up and sniffing various objects or rushing to people or things like that. So he's got two different rules of etiquette based on the environment. And we were able to set that up through our many practicing in, all right, this is your free time to go explore, and teaching him how to thoroughly explore. So when we start out a new puppy or a new rescue, they're going to go into the environment, first of all, and look at two things. One, do I think this environment is safe? And so for there, they're looking at everything they smell, see, whether it's people, dogs, they want it all. And then two, they're looking at, all right, what does my person expect from me in this environment? So if we have a brand new dog, they don't get to step 2 yet. They stick on step 1 and kind of hang there like, am I safe? What's going on? Where am I? Holy cow. And so by the environmental processing, we can help them get to the step 2. And that's where this ACE Freework really comes in. Because if we teach them that they can make choices and go where they want to go, they're processing that environment around them by searching for their favorite treats or their favorite enrichment activity or their favorite game that might be laid out there for them to play. So they're processing the environment you have, and your environment's constantly changing. So when your environment is constantly changing like that, because every time you set it up slightly different. If you have a very young or inexperienced dog, you might use the same obstacles, but put them in a different pattern. Then you might add in 1 or 2 obstacles as you assemble your kit and you learn and get more experience, or maybe you need to change out treats and that requires a different setup. So you have that. But then, as Jen was saying, if you have a dog that you're trying to get used to nail clippers or the grinders or a muzzle or even a new harness or whatever the tool or resource you want your dog to get rid of, just by laying it out in your field of play, your environment that the dog is wandering around, they have that ability to safely process what that is. And so depending on what it is, so let's use a muzzle, for example. And I can share my muzzle training videos with you. If you haven't seen them, they're on my Uberpause YouTube. But so I train muzzles basically just for emergencies. I want my dogs not to panic in that situation. So I start with really simple things, like even just getting the dog to put his nose inside my hands. So I might lay the muzzle out totally away from me at first. And then as I build up and my dog is getting more experienced, I might put the muzzle closer and closer to where I'm sitting. And during that time, I might be doing I'll do a hand thing like this and teach my dog that if he puts his nose through my hands, he'll get reinforcement. So that's my starting stages with muzzle training. And from there, you can then, slowly introduce you're holding the muzzle, and you might have your highest value treats for that one. But so if he decides and chooses to come over and participate in your training session, then you can work on your training session while they can disengage and go pick any one of their free activities that's out around them too. So you could do that with nearly any tool that your dog is showing a little bit of hesitancy for. And so if your dog is used to tool switching out all the time, which many of our working dogs are, you may not need to do this with every tool that you're introducing. But if you introduce one and you notice all of a sudden, whoa, that one is a huge issue, this is the perfect way to be able to introduce it, giving that dog the choice to be able to walk away and have other fun things. There may be other yummy treats and kibble and fun activities for them to do, but you keep your sardines or whatever is your high value treat aside for, you can get this treat if you choose to do this training. And so that could also come with a little bit of conflict. So make sure that you're doing it in a way that your dog can back off at any time and they know that they can back off, so that you're not getting that conflict of, oh, I want the treat, but that's still scary. So just watch for the going too far, too fast. And so I want to just pause for a minute for any questions, and then I want to tell you about something exciting that's coming up. So anybody have anything they want to add? If you raise your hand, we can go in that order.
You know, this is so important, and to be able to let your dog do this and explore and find these things that on their own that they may otherwise find traumatizing. I know if I pick up, Nick hates the nail grinder, and I know if I pick up the nail grinder, he's in the other room. So I don't like doing his nails that way. And I keep, so, you know, being able, and I've left them out in the past, but it makes a lot of sense to do it this way. And, you know, to get them used to these things that might otherwise terrify them in a way that doesn't make them so scared. It helps them build confidence in us as well, so that when we pick up that nail grinder, they've already sniffed it, smelled it, explored it, nudged it, whatever they need to do. And if it's something really terrifying to them, you might even want to put some, you know, the sardine paste or the liver paste on the actual item, and not have, you know, if you're doing it inside, put it on a plate or something that they're not going to break, but be able to put that down where they can look and explore it on their own. And I just see so many ways that you can use this, not even necessarily setting up a specific plan for them to go on every single time, but just in breaking it down for individual pieces of training that you might need to do. Penny, you're muted.
Yeah, I was working on it. That's a very good point. I was trying to pull a link for the next thing that I was going to talk about. But yeah, you know, that's a really, really good point, is that, you know, some things our dogs already have an aversion to, and we may have been working on it for a very long time. And then, you know, maybe a little success here and there, maybe backtracks, whatever. But throwing it into an activity like this can just really put a whole new spin on it that can make it fun and engaging for our dog. So it does take just a little bit more of that fear out. And I don't think that's what Sarah Fisher originally had intended when she created the ACE Freework. But when it comes to working dogs, I want to pull out every trick I have in the book in order to make sure they are as comfortable, as calm, and as confident as possible. So if I can also then tweak this one to go, you know, that direction and be able to use anything, like Azul has not really worn his boots a whole lot, and he doesn't really hate them. He gets used to them, but his back boots don't fit super well. So as soon as I buy his new boots, I plan to throw those into his, you know, free work activity time, where they just always sit here, and when you're ready for them, you let me know.
Penny,
And
where do you expect to do that? Because that's what I was going to ask about. Guinness has a thing about his feet, and I've tried, and I did it with Shasta, so I know I can do it as far as desensitization goes with the boots. But he has a real thing about his feet. He will let me handle him, but he definitely doesn't like it. And the boots have been impossible so far.
well, and that's Azul. So he'll let me do it. He'll let me trim his nails. He'll let me do the mushers. secret wax that he really liked. You'd think most dogs I know love that stuff, but Azul hates it.
So does Guinness.
So, yeah. So it's actually the act of touching his feet, which I found is the act of wearing boots. So when I first started it, I went through all of the, desensitization stuff to boots like anything else. And I went really, really slowly and one boot at a time. And then we actually hit a point to where that was more troublesome than it was worth, because it was taking so long that it was making his resentment worse. So instead I did, kind of a mix of, I know you're not really supposed to force your dog into anything, but he's used to being tolerant to let me do his nails. And, he's never going to love it, but he'll lay there and he doesn't protest. And then we always pair it with a really high, exciting, either awesome reward at the end or, flirt pull, something. Or we do it and then go socializing or something to that extent, something he loves. So I did the same thing with the boots, with starting like with just one boot, instead of messing with the slow socialization of putting each one on, which would take us, a good hour to get there. I would just slide one on and we went for a walk. One booted, went for a walk. And because walking and sniffing is his favorite thing. And then he got used to that. And, maybe 30 minutes later, we stopped. I slid the other front boot on and we walked the rest of our walk with the front boot. We got back to the car, took them off. They went away for a while, and then we slowly did that. And so it got to be to the point to where like he was fine with me putting both front boots on, because he knew he was going for a walk and he would lay there and be just fine with it. The walk becoming his motivation for putting them on. And then we also paired this with, at that time, we were doing a lot of training around the outside of our local dog park. And so we kind of made the boots a condition of, if you want to go for your walk around the outside of the local dog park, which he really, really wanted to do in his adolescence, then it was, you have to wear the boots in this environment. It's just a given. If you want to do this walk, you're wearing the boots. And so might not be the most force-free way, but it was at least a cooperation. And at any time he could stop and take the boots off. And if he did, I let him take them off, but then we just went straight to the car and we left. Session ended. It didn't take him long to realize he didn't want to take those boots off, that he would rather be there and deal with the boots.
I like that idea.
Yeah. So
it.
from there, we were able to do the same approach on the back feet. And it's only like, my boots are more meant for summer because I deal more with hot roads versus cold snow. His feet are designed to handle the snow. So we didn't really work on them all winter. And I started that real slowly again this spring, but it didn't take us long to get the back boots on. And that's when I realized the back boots fall off because they're just too big. His back feet are like 2 sizes smaller than his front feet. So I need to order a second pair so that he can do that. And I see 2 questions there. So looks like Cindy's hand is up first. So let's go over to Cindy.
Okay, I was going to add, Rhea, what you can do also is start with baby socks that are, or kids socks that will fit his feet. And Woodrow Wear makes dog socks that are supposed to help with the heat. I don't know if they'll do 114 degrees. I think the rough wear with a sock inside would be better. But I would start with something like socks inside and play, or like Penny was saying, the walk, something that's high value that they enjoy, that's not necessarily food, because they need to get used to wearing them, and maybe have them on in the house for like 5 minutes of play or until they take them off, and with the socks, and work up to the boots, because the socks they're going to be, well, if you think about how socks feel on your feet versus how shoes feel on your feet, the dogs have the same experience. So that's what I did with Nick, but he doesn't like me putting on his boots or taking off his boots. He'll tolerate that, but he doesn't mind wearing them. He doesn't try and pull them off. If I bring him in the house and I don't take his shoes off because he wants a break before I take his shoes off, he'll just go lay down and he'll leave them on. Some dogs are like that, some dogs aren't, but I would, maybe see if you can just get him to wear the socks first and then switch to boots. But the nice thing about baby socks is they're cheap. Compared to buying a new pair of boots.
How do you keep them on though, the socks? I mean,
Same way socks stay on you. They're usually, because the socks have a foot, they have a heel on them and they'll stay on.
So I actually did that with Azul too, but I did it when he was a real young puppy, so he really didn't even notice, and did the same thing with the slow desensitization. And so he had
And-
that first.
Also
But-
start with a lighter pair of boots that doesn't have a firm sole like the rough wear ones. Like rough wear actually has a thick rubber, a fairly stiff rubber sole, but there's other ones that have like a vinyl sole that are more like a sock with the Velcro around them, and they don't, so the dog's foot can move more naturally.
I did find that I can keep socks on Azul if I need them to wear them in the house they have like a Velcro cable tie. You can pick up like a 4 or 6 pack at Walmart for under $3. So they're just kind of a black strap of Velcro, but it straps to itself and you can wrap it all the way around. And that works really good to wrap around the sock just to provide it a little bit of extra snugness at the top if it's not tight enough to stay up on your dog.
okay.
So that
I
helps.
just went over and got some show and tell. I don't know if you
Okay.
can see this. This
Mhm.
is an actual dog sock. I'm gonna
We
turn
can
my
see it in
background.
front of your face. When you put it in
I'm
front
gonna
of the
turn off
background,
my
it disappears.
background. Give me a second.
We have Ivan with her hand raised next after you're done
Oh,
with
go
your show
ahead,
and tell.
Ivan.
So
So this is a dog sock. This is a
What brand
Woodrow
is that?
sock. That's Woodrow, and these are actual. If they're not just traction, they help with the heat.
Oh, okay. Thank
So
you.
that's one thing. But Nick, I will tell you, Nick wore 2 pairs and he put holes in, or 2 sets, and he put holes in both sets. And I think I have rough wear socks in here somewhere. I don't see them. They must be in his other bag. But you can also buy these from Woodrow, which is basically a piece of PVC pipe that the dog's foot fits through, that's been sanded and made pretty, but you could make something like that easily by just getting a piece of PVC pipe and it fits the foot and you put the sock in it.
yeah, so you can stretch the sock around the outside edge and it helps to slide the sock in the
Yeah.
foot without messing with the nails.
It makes it a lot easier to get the socks on the dog. But if you don't have dew claws, it's less of an issue.
Right. All right, Ivan, you're next.
So I think this raises an interesting question about management, because I think we often go too fast, but sometimes we can also go too slow. And yeah, we have to find a balance between the two. And yeah, I see this a lot. Even with challenges, like with Anya, sometimes I'm asking too little of her, that she gets frustrated and bored. So I have to raise criteria. But yeah, with aversives or something, we assume it's an aversive, it's really difficult. So yeah, I'm trying to work with start buttons for nail clipping and for teeth management. But I think that's it. That's the struggle, because sometimes we have to go a little bit. It's not force free, but sometimes it's not really what we would consider the ideal, but it's less stressing for our dogs. It's just a comment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Sometimes it's a management issue. And, if you take your dog to the vet, there's things they have to do, like take their temperature that the dog is not going to like, and you're not ever going to get a dog that wants something stuck up their rear end on a regular basis. And we have to be aware of that. And we have to be able to make sure that they understand that the overall, the big picture isn't as, scary as that one little moment that they don't like. So they won't be terrified by everything.
Yes. So
Yeah.
we kind of got away a little bit from ACE Freework. I don't want to stop you, Ray. Go ahead if you have another question.
Oh, I was just going to comment on what Cindy said. Yeah, if you can find a vet that understands your dog's personality, it helps too, I think. But I'll leave it at that.
All right. Let's pull it back to the ACE Freework for a moment, because like I said, I have to be done by 2. So we got 10 minutes. We pretty much covered most of what I wanted to cover. I just want to share, let's see, I got to see if I actually got it. Nope. All right. So I need to finish pulling a link. But so there is a Facebook group that is just starting to kick off, because it is, my computer's being slow again. It's not wanting to chase things. So this is a partnership between a couple of force-free trainers. Sue Williamson is actually our August special guest. And then I'm stalling on what the other guy's name is. Matt something. But so this is a free group that they're putting on for August that's all about discussing, and it's not wanting me to share. So it's all about discussing ACE and how you can add more ACE free work into your day-to-day. There's my link. Okay. So I'm going to do it. If you want to just join the group, it's open. They're recommending sharing it. I know I've shared it in the Working Pause group previously, so you might already be there. But so I want to learn more about how to use this better, because I can see its huge value with our working dogs and general pet dogs as well. But like for working dogs to be able to take it up to that next level, I can just see it being great. So one of the things that I plan on doing over this month, like they're going to have like 14 days worth of daily challenges, do this, do that kind of thing to expand all of our knowledge. So I think it runs about 2 weeks is the plan. I'm sure the group will be open much longer, but they'll be doing challenges that run about 2 weeks. I'm going to, I've never been able to get Azul to really care for fruits and vegetables. But being August and being that there are some fruits and vegetables that are very, very rewarding, and it's going to be super hot, I'm going to be making up a combination of basically frozen blueberries and cream in his small little treat-sized containers that he's used to, so that I can be throwing that out into our free work and see if that is something that I can get him interested in. And then I'm also going to be experimenting with different things on his lick mat. So Cameron is not a real lick mat fan, but Azul loves his lick mats. So he gets them, maybe not every day, but, at least 2 or 3 times a week. So I'm going to try to, instead of making that be his full meal, I'm going to go more of a little bits of things on his lick mat, so that every day I can put some kind of new thing on there to try to incorporate those fruits and vegetables and see if I can't just pique his interest in some new things a little bit more, so that my only high value treats are not you know, the meats that he gets as part of his raw food every day. So the other thing that I really want to explore, and I don't know how far I'm going to get into that, but is more of using enrichment more wisely, which, I mean, we're all familiar with lick mats, snuffle mats, stuffed Kongs, whatever. So many of us will just lay it there and be done with it. You know, maybe we put it in the crate with the dog, maybe we put it on their bed or whatever, but we give it to them and walk away, because the point is we want them to enjoy it and we want to be able to check out for a while. So by incorporating them into the ACE Freework, we get to check out for a little while. But I want to see if I can't then take it and push that level of, all right, this is your favorite toy right now, your favorite enrichment. So let's start with, can you work on back paw targets for 2 minutes before you get this enrichment? Can you do this other thing that, you know, maybe we've been doing in training sessions and you kind of sort of like, or you tolerate it, you know what you want to do, but it's not your funnest thing to practice. You know, can we do that muzzle training? Can we? So I want to really expand on that over the next month, which is where I want to have another one of these talks, because I think we've had a lot of good things come out in this today. But I would like to do it again, either end August or early September, so that we can share what we've all learned. And I want to kind of put out there, is there anything else or any other applications besides what we've already talked about that you want to try to learn more on using this ACE for other things over the next month? And if you can raise your hand, that goes in the right order. And Cindy is first. Go ahead, Cindy.
I think this is a really good thing to use also in new environments that your dog may be unsure of. Nick tends to be a little, he's not, I don't want to say he's not confident, but sometimes he's unsure of the environment that we're in and is more tense. And I really noticed with this last dog show we went to, he was so much better. We were parked in a really good spot. We take an RV there, or we take a trailer there. And in the past, I've had a hard time getting him to eat at shows. I've had a hard time getting him to sleep at shows, and he's done inappropriate behavior to wake me up in the morning. This show was totally different, and I think it was the environment. But I think that being able to think about doing these things, you know, if you travel, if you go to the park and you don't normally do these things in the park, aside from doing them in your backyard, I think doing them in new environments, especially if you have a young puppy that you're getting out, or a young dog that you're getting just starting PA that might not be as confident as an older dog, that this could really be helpful in desensitizing or counter conditioning them to things that they're not really sure of, or environments that they're not really sure of. I mean, I wouldn't set this up in the middle of a mall or at an amusement park, but I can see the value of doing this like a park, you know, in conjunction with a parkour in the park, or in a different environment than they might normally be sitting in.
Well, and that's just it. You might be able to take one or two things. So say your dog has a favorite toy that you've learned from Freework, and a favorite treat that you've learned from Freework, and an favorite enrichment object that you've learned from Freework. You might be able to take those three into a new environment, such as a hardware store, and find a quiet corner and just chill with those three things for a little while to build value for that environment.
Especially if you've already been practicing Freework at home.
Exactly. You can take it from the backyard level, and you can do these inside your house, in your living room, or whatever. Yeah. But then being able to take it out to get in those new environments, and also have it as the, you know, the go-to. So maybe your dog is fairly settled in PA, and they know what they're doing and they're familiar with environments. And then all of a sudden something really bizarre happens. Like, I mean, we were at Home Depot less than a month ago when 2 employees were moving this huge stack that was way too big for the cart they were moving it on. And it literally fell right in front of us. Like, it wasn't close to hitting us, but it made a loud noise that scared me. And so Azul, thankfully being as resilient as he is, we jumped out of the way, but then we recovered, and then we helped them because they needed a hand to steady the cart. But so if I had had one of those high value things on hand and paired it with that immediately after, that could have very easily stopped a problem from happening in a dog that was less confident. Azul rocked it, thankfully, but a younger dog or a less experienced dog, that could have totally spoiled them on the whole training day.
Or even a dog that just naturally isn't confident.
Right.
It's just one of those tools that I see for service dog handlers being extremely, extremely useful. Probably more important for us as service dog trainers and handlers than it is for the average pet owner. And I think it's a really good experience for the average pet owner. But I think we're at training to a level that's so different than any other, even police dogs, because police dogs, they have, they're kind of divided up, and they're not in the same type of environments because generally speaking, they don't want those dogs interacting with the public unless they're attacking them. Right. So even though they're extremely well behaved.
And they often have 1 or 2 specific jobs. And, so some of them might be more interactive with public in their job, depending on what it is, like the school liaison canine officer around here. But they only work in schools. He doesn't take that dog into Walmart. He doesn't, like, he could if there was a problem at Walmart, but he doesn't take that dog into any other environments than the school. So the dog's in the same 5, 8, I don't know how many they serve, but the same schools all the time. So it's not necessarily as used to processing the new environments that our dogs might be used to, because I mean, if I tried to count all the environments Azula would be in there, I'd definitely lose track, but I'd be well over 100 environments he's been in the short 2 years of lifetime.
Nick as well. I mean, Nick's flown back to and from Portland. He's ridden on trains. He's, cars, buses.
Right.
Gone kayaking. That's a lot to ask of a dog that's not quite 3. And we're asking a lot of our dogs at a very young age. So I think this is really important to help build their confidence and maintain their confidence, because we don't often talk about maintaining confidence. And yes, it's something that you really should be working on with your dog on a regular basis, because things happen. And if you don't have to go back and build something up after a bad experience, like Poe getting bitten, she's just took a little bit of, I don't like other dogs for a minute. And then all of a sudden, she's pretty much back to normal. She'll look, but she doesn't react. It's like she's allowed to look. She's mostly on pet banners. She doesn't go out in public anymore.
Every dog is going to have a bad experience sometime in their life, no matter how much we try to protect them from it. Azul has been really great, other than having a few things like thrown at him or falling on him. He's been pretty protected, but he's only 2. Somewhere along the lines, he's going to get hurt in some way, shape, or fashion, and we're going to need to be able to get past that. So if we have all the experience with ACE before the bad thing happens, how much better will it be for us to
and our dogs
to recognize those bad things first and how badly it did impact our dog, and then to be able to treat it better moving forward because we know our dogs more. So I do want to kind of end it on that note, unless somebody has something really quick, because we're already just a minute or 2 past my time. So, and go ahead, Cindy.
Well, oh, I still have my hand up. Sorry.
Oh.
No, but I was just going to say, you know, I've had issues with Nick. He's been attacked several times at critical periods in his life where he's had really bad dog-dog interactions. And as a result, I've been struggling with that for the last year and a half. And being able, like, if I took him out on a lawn and did this in my apartment complex when everybody's walking their dogs and he's busy snuffling around for his treats, his high value treats, hopefully the other dogs wouldn't be coming over, but this would be a really good way to do dog-dog interaction training for him. Or even with all the cats in the complex, because he thinks cats should be chew toys. But we need to be aware of these things so that we can make the problems less for our dogs, so that they have higher confidence and they can be more resilient.
And that is perfect. Let's end there. I want to thank you guys all for coming.